Hello, species value system. They want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to read you a few definitions. You might understand the importance of sequence nature. Nature being one of the definitions. Like propagation, cultivation too. Because this is how our fact-checking nature. In other words, for example, too, juxtapose with this, in mind with this conversation about how charge, in the nature of that word also, in relationship to positive's nature, and experiences discernment of the value of what is positive or negative, in and as its own value of progression into our relationship to the rest of the bonding value progression that is inseparable from us as the complete nature of positive value, identity of value, which is positive, and the body of value and progressive that is also the discernment of that positive, the appreciation of it, to and for the phenomena, in this case, of the complete, a little bit more of the semi-nature of the complete, unchanging value of value transfer nature of and as the identity that is self-generating. That is the cause before the Old Testament is demonstrating this. We're supposed to explain this part that came before the beginning of the Old Testament, written in English, for example. God is speaking and going, this is good, and determine this is not. You know what I'm saying? From temporary positive, everything inside in identity is positive, temporary positive. But the difference, one of the differences between temporary and lasting positive is relationship to this identity of value progression, which we are only semi-control of the nature of, which is the cause to positive or negative value nature progressions. But to it as a value progression system, technically ulterior, that these are where are. Excuse me, 1 second, just so turn this sound down a little bit. We have feedback. This is also critical because of fact treatment, how this was a fact treatment nature racket. For example, with color and being able to be a quality of fact treatment nature, capable of defending itself and of being the quality of fact treatment nature capable of explaining the simple, only extensive, organized crime method that motivated all to criminal insidious natures of identities of and as roles. And so acts and natures with what was causing more than 99% of the crimes. And from a base propagated this way before what they knew would happen was that nation value would gain itself. See, but then the tribes became nations as fact-checking nature racket roles, tools, because not one person was allowed the time for a fact-checking nature quality to demonstrate with impositions, forced to react, juxtapose fake care, torture, hurt, criminal insidious nature, pseudo-positive defenses of that as fact-checking nature, as value, and exploitations of that to spots all. This knew that nature will continue to demonstrate negative value nature progressions in demonstration of criminal foreign influences that took over the ancient campus Marseilles in semi-ancient times before the semi-ancient times of Jesus Christ and of modern religions. Greatly about how human fact treatment nature was maintained, influenced now, to the defense of sensibilities of conviction natures, of opinion natures, of criminal insidiousness nature roles that you can't legalize, that are going to continue to cause nature as the identity of it that is beyond that is simultaneously distinctly and not distinctly unchanging onto all parts. He's going to cause positive or negative value nature progression is a demonstration of this. Value as nature, we are only value nature inside values nature. That came before where the beginning of the Old Testament begins. The beginning of the Quran too. Not valued as nature the way it's being asked to be. Because of all identities of positions as victim predators, quality of fact treatment nature in relationship to markets, positions, values. Positive value in relationship to that. Integrities drawn to a theater, all as victim predator roles that you can't defend that. And us from what exploits that. To each age of fact treatment nature. Each individual grouped together and progressively. So we have grouped not just sexes in areas and nations. See, this is why, nature, nations. I'm going to read the definition for nations, because this is where the Native Americans made tribes what is nations, because they're individually led. But that's per a system that is incompatible with this one, only because this one's criminally foreign influenced. Originally, in ancient times before seminal criminal re-engineering of the original nature of internation sciences and of our value of relationship to ourselves and our understanding of it, that revealed English, as we'll examine proofs. Also using, instead of using evidence, there was the evidence reception, it is involved with roles. So, but correlation has meaning, the identity of correlation and its identity of value nature progression. Correlation nature has the means. Identity, the identity of metaphysics is simultaneously the identity of a puzzle, for example, of correlation nature, which is bigger than, greater than its own individual body of value discernment. This is the body of value discernment, body of value relationship to itself discernment system, because that makes an energy that connects as a positive or negative value nature progression per the might of the rest of existence. It's complete identity. Each complete identity is simultaneously and unceasingly valuable, gaining value of identity of relationship, value / value nature relationship to the values, perfect progression as nature and as value and as all things at once. Boxings. Not be dunce, call campus that, into the rear. Return campus Narcissus needs to name. Got here, nature. This is a little dictionary. This is reading from the American Heritage Dictionary. Nation. 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 An aggregation of people organized under a single government. So, in other words, order to our voice, what is potential, not just what we need. See, this is long trap that came up within self-defended, to be self-defended. Only identities of position capable of pardoning issues and relying on experts involved with courts originally and still maintained identity thefts, database illusion stacking, then needing to hide that from presidents, all as victim predator roles. Is the way we have to. So that is also tied to precedents maintained ill, because then to counter it, they have to, they have to use compassion making, separating charges too, where people do wrong and or they're getting framed too, innocent people. Because we have life progressions, finite, grouped, and together in collusion, originally and still, states and areas of each modern nation, from off campuses, then on off campuses already maintained, intersciences, physical delusions, mixed with criminality. So now there's a reason why the nature, the identity of reality, has various definitions in the dictionary. And I want to know this dictionary's difference. When I right click on Microsoft Word, it defined nature as everything else besides the body. In other words, it doesn't have, they're obfuscating the connections of things, about things. We have to, you should do this by showing what is true always and not exploiting one exception. Because the identity of all things at once is truth, and it is a nature of truth that is not denying exceptions. Because there's also a hierarchy of identity. As a semi-nature, complete nature relationship, as a complete nature, semi-nature, complete nature relationship, as a semi-nature to complete nature, a value progression that holds manifest ones as the course. So nation, so I'm going to read the various definitions, because now we're supposed to be not just to see exception nature, but the value and the value nature relationship to itself. Why? This is about the identity of math, greater than it. Why do we use values? Not just as science. It's about the identity of the sciences shared. Nation, an aggregation of people organized under a single government. Number two, the second definition, a federation or tribe, especially one composed of North American Indians. Especially because, in other words, that was fact cheap nature rackets in relationship to organized crime, where and as and how the only organized crime body encounters were in collusion, with and as a method that maintains states and areas in collusion with other nations, and all as a fact cheap nature, Oz, for example, in relationship to the wars. Only that realized. Reactions needed as knaves, because everyone was made only capable of seeing and discerning what we need to counter multi-front fake care, torture, hurt on everyone, every theater, misprision theater, lies, experience that can't see how space is being maintained, intersciences, from off campuses, then on off campuses, all victim predator roles. Natures of pseudo-positive, exploiting what each age of fact cheap nature was a victim of. Each branch of government originally still it was child abused per this method, which motivated them. Their identities were stolen methodically. This is not debatable, but with them using methods pretending people should sue as means to pretend not to realize roles as victims, but as victim predators stacking databases with made fake arresting officers, categorical lies. Crime rolls with database solutions stacking at campuses too, attaching people to fake conversations, fake relationships that never had any. Crime rolls with the exceptions to such convictions being recorded, set up criminally to pretend other. So they're making naive reactions only let be realized in relationship to negative value nature progressions, acts in nature's real causes. More than 99% of the crimes were caused by this, originally still. When you have quality of fact, cheap in nature, even entertaining, Jim Crow laws, without demonstrating the relationship of that topic as value in relationship to our founders. Stolen history course too, at the same time simultaneously. Our stolen history, pretended insidiously, pretended because people can't take it. People can't take it because free speech is forced to equality, a fake positive invested victim predators that simultaneously are reliant upon wars, only having been let realized. Reliant upon how we went into the World War I, II, and all the rest of the world, wars, without having let demonstrated what George Washington and James Madison wanted us to demonstrate about their fact human nature, slavery, stolen identities with the American Revolution. And since they didn't have free speech, just because they stuck up the Constitution, they had to hide their roles with that. So charges, the identity that is greater than positive and negative. Negative, value nature, criminal seriousness nature, it is positive, but it's temporary positive. It's a theater nature of positive. And overall, and because of the nature of this value transfer, a gaining manifest pattern, everything's in relationship to this. Yin Yang was with the nations together, the species valued together that revealed English. Knowing too was as a simultaneous nature, not replacing the value of original names for God and things like that. In other words, because God is the extent of what we know, individually and grouped. And with the bond onto that as value in relationship to its value progression. And so when we're conceived wrong as identities justifying roles within as this, was told, in other words, when we're young, you have to teach people that, we'll examine this. We'll examine this. Each age of fact, your nature is in a trap. So, therefore I rap.